All right. Welcome back to Teaching Technicals with me, the dumbest of them all, Mr. Teacher Professor Mateo. And today we will be talking about on balance volume, also known as OBV. And I think that's important for a lot of us to know because it is a pretty popular indicator. So like many of the other ones we've discussed, RSI, MACD, it's another momentum indicator, but instead of being a lagging indicator, this one's actually considered to be a leading indicator. That comes with its own host of pros and cons, and I'll discuss that in a minute. But overall, OBV, on balance volume, another indicator, momentum indicator. This one is a leading indicator. This one, you can find it on TradingView. You could probably find it on whatever charting software you're on. Once again, just click OBV and you're going to get this to come up. You're going to get this line, and your first question might be, what in the world does this line possibly mean? And I don't want anyone to really get bogged down in the magnitude. So a lot of the times, if we're looking at things like RSI, you're going to care about the value. Where in 0 to 100 is it? Now with OBV, you don't really care about this number at all. You care more about the trend of the line. So how is this line calculated for all of my math nerds out there? Well, you arbitrarily start at some point, and whatever time frame you're on, if you're going to start at 0. Your base value is going to be 0. And whatever time frame you're on, you look at every bar. So if the bar is green, if the close is higher than the previous close, you would add the volume. So let's say you have a green bar and there was 100,000 shares traded, it would be now plus 100,000. Let's say the very next bar, for whatever time frame you're on, is another green bar, and it's another 100,000. So now it's 100,000 plus 100,000, 200,000. Now let's say it's actually a red bar. Now in this case, now the third close is below the second close, which means you now have a red bar. You would actually subtract that volume. Let's say that volume is 50,000. So you have 100,000 plus 100,000 minus 50,000. So it's always a running total. Whenever you have a green bar, whatever volume is associated with that volume, you add it. And if you have a red bar, the close is below the previous close, you would subtract it from whatever the running total cumulative value is. That's how OBV is calculated, on balance volume. So now that you have that, you kind of see that when it goes up, more green bars, you're adding the volume. When you have the red bars, you are subtracting the volume. What's kind of interesting here is it doesn't take the extreme nature of the bar into account. So for example, you can have a little red bar with a massive volume, or you can have a massive red bar with a small volume, and you're only just changing the volume. It's not taking into account the range of the bar. And then this leads into a scenario where you can kind of utilize it in pretty unique ways. So first of all, I would say that there's two main ways you can really utilize OBV. First of all, you can use it for trend confirmation. So for example, the S&P 500 back in September hit at that point a new all-time high, and it sold off. And then we saw kind of a point of, okay, is the bearish trend over right between October 7th and October 13th? In here, you might be waiting, be like, okay, is this a fake out breakout? What's going on? But at a certain sense, around here on October 15th, when it started to go, you can see that you got a nice trend confirmation. Not only was it going up, but the volume was in agreement with the actual trend. The volume was pouring in. And in a certain sense, if you really boil it down, it's telling you that the smart money is also betting on it. The big players, the people with the money who increase the volume, balloon the volume when they like a certain trade. As you see the volume go up and up and up, that's telling you that the smart money is also betting on it. So you can use it as a trend confirmation. That's the first one. The second one I would really bring up here is when you have a little bit of a disagreement. So you can kind of see it here, the current all-time high on November 22nd. Well, if you compare that to the previous all-time high when we were there, let me just mark this for you. Well, as you can see, the volume didn't really increase. So similar to whatever it is, RSI, MACD, stochastics, there's so many things where you see this bearish divergence. So we got a new high, but people weren't as eager to buy it. So you're seeing the decrease in volume there. It had a hard time struggling. Now, this particular example is not the best. The price did go higher, but people weren't enthusiastic. And then eventually we saw the sell-off. But I think I found a better example for you. Let's check out Lucid. So right here, this entire time it was pushing. We have this nice trend, but as it was kind of consolidating and we saw it was trying to get going, but the volume just never was there. It's telling us that the big players, the people who can move markets with the serious money, you're seeing a bit of that divergence. And once again, RSI, MACD, it's all going to be called bearish divergence when the price goes higher, but whatever that indicator is you're using doesn't go higher, that's bearish divergence. You can actually also see it the other way. If something continues to go lower, but once again, the OBV is not making a new low, and you can apply this to whatever time frames you want. I've been using daily candlesticks. That would just be the flip example of where you have bullish divergence of like, okay, something's going on here, but the volume, it's starting to dry up and the volume is not dropping as much with the price. So the bears are running out of steam and maybe you actually have some bulls finally starting to step in. So OBV, trend confirmation, and also you can look for a form of bearish or even bullish divergence. Both of those would be applicable in this scenario. This OBV, on balance volume, is a leading indicator. Similar to many of the other indicators we discussed. Do not use it by itself. This particular one, I would use it in environments where is the trend confirmed? Is there about to be a trend reversal? That's where I would use it. But I would also want to pair it up with maybe a lagging indicator to kind of, no pun intended, balance it out to make sure I'm getting confirmation. So maybe I want to see something in the MACD and that I'm like, okay, I think the trend's confirming. And then I wait for the OBV to say, yeah, okay, we can confirm this trend. So once again, this is another tool that I like to pair up with other tools and kind of use them all individually as a filter. And if it passes all filters, you might have a very interesting trade or investment in front of you. But overall, this is OBV, on balance volume. Obviously, let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to post them.